Well, hello there to the YouTube viewers, to the Twitch viewers. Those are the two genders. Uh, yes, how are we all? It's 8 a. No, it's not 8 a.m. It's 8 p.m. in the UK, which is 3 p.m. on the east coast of Americana land, and of course 7 a.m. in Fiji. Hello to all of the people of Fiji. Sorry that I'm an hour later than I would usually be. I got caught up in the real world. You know, there's a thing outside of the internet. Like, you know, the internet is everything, obviously. But there's a thing outside of the internet called the real world, and it's a horrible place. It doesn't have interesting cat memes. It does have cats though, which is nice. So it's and it does have Wi-Fi in some places, so it's okay, to an extent. But it's full of humans, which is also very significant drawback as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, I had things to do and they overran, so the original 7 p.m. start time had to be pushed back an hour. I probably could have rushed, but I had shit to do. So, yeah, hello there. How are we all? Are we well? Are we alive? That's the main thing, isn't it? You can't really be well if you're not alive. Anyway, yes, so lots of nonsense to get to. One very serious subject, one very not serious subject. But before we get into any of that, one thing that did piss me off enormously was this story I found. Where are we? We go to that. What the everlasting fuck? What are you doing, University of Alabama? This is political correctness gone mad. Why are you telling people how they can and cannot press buttons? I thought this was America. If land of the free, home of the brave means anything, it means cock button pressing. Pressing. Okay? Fucking outrageous. Anyway. So, yeah, that's a thing. I did a silly cock joke to start off with. That might be inappropriate given the subject matter of the first half. Never mind. Anyway, when has being appropriate ever mattered to me before? I suppose. Anyway, quick update. Sort of any matters arising type sitch to do with the first presidential debate. For anyone in America who thought that was wondering as to how parts of the rest of the world had taken the American presidential debate. We had a little bit of a taste of that from Japan yesterday, with the poor fuckers who had to do the translation, the live, translation of the three men shouting at each other, which was just a nightmare, because then you had six voices trying to be heard, and it's just impossible. Apparently they're going to be cutting off the microphones during the 2-minute bits, which I think is probably sensible. Although, of course, Tim Pool, who has rimmed Donald Trump so hard he's mostly anal residue rather than a human being anymore, said that they were doing that because Trump had won so well. Yeah, that's a thing he said. Total bollocks. Rather than the fact that he was, just shouting everything. But if you were wondering, dear viewer, how some of the other parts of the rest of the world had taken to that, and how they were reading the situation politically in America, this was the lead story on the front page of the BBC website yesterday. There we go. The night American democracy hit rock bottom. Rock bottom, everyone. That's including Watergate. That's including Donald Trump's election, whatever. The rock bottom. Yeah, not going well, is it, lads? Anyway, I wonder how Cole read the situation. Of course, naturally. He said, that's Carl's summation of the thing. The smug prick said Biden lost the first debate. Note he didn't say Trump won it, but whatever. It didn't matter though, because what a fucking surprise that is. Like, of course, Donald Trump could have come on stage, fucked a freshly aborted fetus with one hand whilst punching to death a fucking disabled veteran with the other, while screaming Allahu Akbar and fucking, I don't know, spitting COVID juice into people's fucking faces. And Carl still would have come out and said, yeah, he won. Isn't he brilliant? Donald Trump's the best. Because he's just a grift. That's all. That's all he is. So yeah. Rock bottom. I think a lot of people in America are hoping that this is rock bottom, that it doesn't get worse from here. But who knows? Who knows? Anyway, for those wondering, the thing on screen, which is my meme for the day, it's someone else put together. This twat here on the left is called Dave Cullen, who does look like he could be related to me, and he is Irish, so it's possible. And this obviously it's a bathroom, you fucking idiot. I think he was like was it a gender neutral or one of the a unisex toilet or something in California, which genuinely confused him. He took a selfie next to the sign with like I don't know, men and women on the same sign or whatever, and that blew his mind. So someone just memed it as, it's a fucking bathroom, you idiot, or it's a bathroom, you fucking idiot. Which you'll notice a lack of punctuation. Disappointed. But it's a good meme nonetheless. Anyway, we'll get back to our friend David in just a little while. Because he is an absolute delicious lol cow. He really is. But serious faces on for a second. We open up with a genuinely horrible story, which I suspect is going to get a lot more rioty in the next few days. Because, yes. We've talked on this show and on the show I did with Christy as well, which are very similar in many respects, about the case of Breonna Taylor. I think you all know, at least roughly speaking, the story I'm referring to. You may not know all the details, but I don't need to go over the actual story as such, right? Basically, white cop shoots black woman dead. We'll get into the specifics of the lies that have been told about the incident, but that's the story. You all know about it, unless you've been living under a rock. In which case, how have you accessed the internet? I don't even know how that works. Are you still under the rock? Why are you living under a rock? That's mental. Yeah. Breonna Taylor. And there was a grand jury in the case, which come back with the incredibly sarcastically offensive charges of reckless endangerment because they shot bullets into a wall of a neighbouring apartment, but no charges at all for the fact that they shot this innocent woman dead in her own home. Yeah. Now, as if that weren't bad enough, and it's fucking atrocious, it turns out even that seems to have been a massive police/attorney general cover-up which is being exposed. That facade of actual justice is crumbling. We had the virtually unprecedented incident of a member of that grand jury specifically requesting that the transcripts for that be put into the public because they feel like they've been lied to. They were not shown the proper evidence of that this is a cover-up. This is an establishment, white supremacist cover-up of the murder of an innocent human being in their own home. And apparently those are going to be released. I heard on Friday, although I can't confirm that, that's a thing I heard. That's conjecture at this point, but apparently they're going to be released on Friday. And I suspect things might get a little bit Bernie in parts of the country. When I say Bernie, I don't mean Bernie Sanders, although kind of. But I mean on fire, because people don't like A, their people being murdered, naturally, and B, being lied to about that, because that's worse in many respects. Because individual acts of fuckery can take place, It is possible for bad apples, although I would suggest in this case the American police force has so many bad apples that you would probably be more right in describing the good cops as good apples, because they are the distinct character. The rest of them are the bulk of rotten, putrefying apple cores at this point. Anyway, yes, when you then try and cover it up, that's when people get really unbelievably angry. Because it's not nice that anyone would ever get killed by anyone at all, right? But it can happen. But that's why you have, in theory, a justice system. You know, the right wing were going on about the young white lad that got killed. And they're saying, like, this was about a month ago now. And they tried to make a cause célèbre out of the case, because it was a black guy killing a white kid. And the reason that wasn't a massive story is, A, because it was a private citizen killing a private citizen, which is a rather different thing than a state enforcer, a Judge Dredd character deciding to execute someone in the street. And secondly, because the police did their job in that case. They hunted down the murderer, caught them, investigated it, collected the evidence, and the Attorney General in whatever fucking state he was has charged them with murder. So the justice system actually worked. People can stay calm, not necessarily happy, because they've still got a dead person, so it's not a good situation, but you make the best of a bad situation. The justice system worked. Not an issue with that. People don't tend to riot over shit like that. Not nice, no one's happy about it, but the justice system takes its course, and, you know, hopefully the murderer gets sent to prison forever. Grand. This is the exact opposite of that. This is a state-enforced, a state-backed, essentially militia. That's what the police are at this point, a white supremacist militia. They've certainly cohorted with the openly white supremacist militia, so I mean, the distinction between the two is getting rather difficult to define, it seems to me. So, the cover-up is arguably worse in morality terms or whatever, because accidents can happen, whereas cover-ups, that's not an accident. Anyway, so, the Kentucky Attorney General, who you will notice is a black man. Oh yeah, they're right, they don't like to do identity politics, but they do love to point out when it's a black man. I believe the phrase is juking and jiving for their white massa. Again, not a phrase I would use, a phrase being used by black people to describe this technically human being, although I would argue more like a dog turd. Whatevs. He's the Attorney General for Kentucky, which is not just a place where awesome chicken comes from, apparently, but is also a place where terrible black collaborators exist. He's the Attorney General, and it turns out, has been involved in the white supremacist cover-up. We'll get into it. Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, Tuesday night, suggested that the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case could have made a, quote, assessment about different charges, unquote, in an exclusive on-camera interview with CNN affiliate WDRB, which is, yeah. They're an independent body. Cameron said in the interview, if they wanted to make an assessment about different charges, they could have done that. But our recommendation was that Mattingly and Cosgrove, those are the two police officers, were justified in their acts and their conduct. Anyone who knows the case will tell you otherwise, unless they're white supremacist liars, which, you know, Daniel Cameron is. Officer Miles Cosgrove and Jonathan Mattingly were two of the three officers involved in Taylor's death. Taylor, an EMT, which is a nurse, basically, was killed in her own home when the plainclothes officers executed a no-knock warrant, which isn't technically true. It was originally a no-knock warrant which was transferred into a knock and announce warrant, which is why they claimed initially to have knocked and announced themselves as police officers. Even though of the, I think, is it 13 witnesses, only one said they heard them knocking. That's suspicious. Yeah, anyway, so when they broke into the home, unannounced, plain clothed, did not identify themselves as police officers, you are perfectly within your right to defend yourself and your property at that point. Which is a perfectly normal part of not just a legal system, but of any kind of moral justice system. Of course you're allowed to defend yourself against what you can only describe as breakers and enterers. They've armed, broken into your fucking home, and you don't know that they're police. So you can't say you're resisting arrest or whatever, because you don't know that they're police officers. Anyway. And why, of course, the fact that they claim that Breonna Taylor's boyfriend shot at them. Well, if they'd announced themselves as police officers and he'd shot at them, why have they not even brought charges against him? It's because they didn't announce themselves, and he was right in self-defending. Just saying. We'll get into that though. Right. Cosgrove and Mattingly have not been indicted in the case. The third officer, Brett Hankinson, has been indicted on 3 counts of wanton endangerment of the first degree. In the interview with WDRB, Cameron also said he didn't seek murder charges against Cosgrove or Mattingly. Didn't even seek murder charges. Quote, ultimately, our judgment is that the charge that we could prove in court beyond a reasonable doubt was for wanton endangerment against Mr. Hankinson, unquote, Cameron said. CNN senior legal analyst Laura Coates said it's rare, if not unheard of, that a grand juror would go beyond the statutes presented to them by the prosecutor. So essentially, Cameron is lying. You know, in theory, they could go beyond it, but that doesn't happen. And he knows that doesn't happen, so he was covering up for the murder. He was not even trying to put murder charges on the table because he didn't want them to be charged for murder. Not that he didn't think they could be, he didn't want them to be. Anyway. Quote, normally the grand jury is simply voting on the statutes presented to the grand jury. They are not combing through the criminal code to see if prosecutors could pursue criminal charges, unquote. Coates said that, quote, they are far more reactive to facts that are presented to them than they are seeking criminal statutes to charge a defendant under, unquote. And this is an interesting one because, again, this is a point I've made previously, this is the upcoming point. The police, whenever there's evidence of the actual events that took place, it almost always contradicts the police's account of the events. Police testimony should not count for more in a court case, it should count for less than a non-police statement, because they're consistent bullshitters. They're in little more than a criminal syndicate themselves at this point. In his news conference last week, Cameron said Kenneth Walker fired, which is Breonna Taylor's then boyfriend, fired the shot that hit Sergeant John Mattingly, but Walker's attorney has disputed the fact. Quote, the notion that somehow there was a friendly fire or crossfire that hit Sergeant Mattingly is a silly idea, Cameron told WDRB Tuesday. To believe that idea is to suggest that somehow bullets were fired from outside of the apartment, down the side of the apartment unit. Somehow he had a sharp turn left to hit Mattingly in order to match up with the entry wound, he added. Walker's attorney, Steve Romines, or Romines, whatever, told CNN's Chris Cuomo last week that Walker did not shoot Mattingly in the thigh and that a ballistics report from the Kentucky State Police does not support the prosecution's assertion that one bullet Walker fired struck Mattingly. Cameron says charges had been founded on the law facts. Anyway, but the point being, if indeed they had knocked and announced, as they initially said they had, and that Walker shot and hit a police officer, why have they not charged Walker with, I don't know, attempted murder of a police officer? Because they're lying. They're liars. Cameron says charges have been founded on the law facts. The law doesn't give the Attorney General's office license to make charges that are not founded on laws and facts, Cameron said. Our responsibility in the AG's office is to the truth and to the facts. I cannot fashion the facts in such a way to meet a narrative that in many ways had already been put out there before the facts had been put out there. Yes, you can, and yes, you did. But like I say, apparently that's going to be going forward with they're coming out on Friday, the transcripts, which will be explosive if they turn out to be as corruptly put together as it would appear they are. Where are we? Where are we? Just having a read of the chat. During training in the S police force, I think it's supposed to be US police force, you are told you are the best armed gang in town. That says all you need to know. Indeed. Indeed, they are. I mean, they're a criminal gang at this point. Where are we? Any gobshites here was cooking dinner. Okay, thank you. Anyway, none of you appear to have a lot to say on what I just told you, which would be amazing. It was 11 witnesses. Apologies, thank you. Yeah, there's always a clarification in the chat. Thank you very much. But that would still mean that 10 witnesses said that they didn't hear it. So, yeah, no. Anyway, so that's a story that's ongoing. I'll keep you up to date with that as and when it develops, and all of that jazz. But in the meantime, what will be the bulk of today's episode, we'll be looking at the recent drivel put out by the cockhead on the screen. Not me, although, I mean, it sort of is me as well. But specifically, one Mr. Dave Cullen, otherwise known as ComputingForever on the YouTubes. But not on Twitter anymore, lol. Anyway, yes. He has, it seems, turned into even more of a far-right nutbag than he previously had been. He's also, it turns out, a coronavirus truther, in the same way that 9/11 truthers are truth seekers. He basically thinks it's a complete hoax. His Gab timeline, because yes, he's not on Twitter anymore, as I said, lol. He's on Gab. He's not even on Parler, I don't think. I couldn't find him. But he's on Gab, and his entire timeline is COVID, 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 COVID. All the way down. And not, here's interesting, true facts about COVID. It's, here's some fucking bullshit conspiracy nonsense. Be scared, be very scared, NWO. He's a far-right crank. And this is the cunt who kept going on about facts over feelings, facts over feelings. He's garbage. He really is. He's one of the most anti-science YouTubers of any real size or whatever. Anyway, so I've got some screenshots first. Before we even get into his videos, we're going to be watching 3 of his videos. They're quite short though, so don't worry. Or relatively so. Just to give you a perspective on the guy. This is him getting quite bent out of shape about red elephants, a Nazi YouTube, ex-YouTube, lol, channel getting shut down on YouTube. Because apparently the communist revolution and purge continues apace. Or at pace. Which is interesting, because if there's been a communist revolution at YouTube, why are you still on it, Dave? Are you a communist? No, you're just full of shit. Yeah, he's put out several NWO bullshit videos, one of which we'll be taking a look at. He says, this is new, the crap is now showing up under YouTube videos talking about the NWO. They're obviously concerned. Yeah, they're concerned that you're lying to people on their platform, which, by the way, YouTube, if they're doing that, maybe stop them? Maybe like get rid of them because they're clearly, harmful to society? Just saying. Here he is on his channel, he reposted this. Hydroxychloroquine works. Dave Cullen is such a Trump twat. He's going down the hydroxychloroquine works, which there's literally no evidence for at all. All lives matter. There is no climate emergency. Citation needed. There are two sexes, which, as we previously discussed, is YouTube viewer and Twitch viewer. Those are the two. Unborn children are children, lol. Yeetus the fetus. Misandrist feminism is toxic. Okay, babe. Boys need fathers. Western civilization is good. Okay, Nazi man. Pure indoctrination of the youth. And then it's like kids' coronavirus stuff. Because, you know, Dave, the coronavirus is real. We know that. You're full of shit. And in order to tell children about this, you have to put it in a kind of child's way. Because if this is indoctrination, then all education is indoctrination. Which I'm sure you would say it is. It's cultural Marxisms or something, because you're an idiot. But that isn't actually the case. You're just a twat. That's the... I cropped it. I put the uncropped and the cropped version in here for some reason. Anyway. Yeah, this guy's going to preach to us about the real science in a second. Quote, I think David Icke is on point here. Big time. That would be conspiracy crank par excellence. David fucking Icke. David Icke, who... You know the joke I do with Christy about the lizard people wearing human suits? David Icke invented that. David Icke is one of the originators of that theory. He believes that all of the world's leading people are lizards in human suits. But Dave's just like, yeah, I think David Icke's awesome. Let's promote David Icke on my gab. I'm not a crank. The satanic wars have started. Awesome. The NWO agenda revealed with some person who cares. You get the idea. Genuinely, unsarcastically, retweeting Ben Garrison cartoons, including this anti-COVID one, which literally suggests, if you look at the bottom right panel, that the COVID vaccine will lead to FEMA camps. They're literally still trying to pull the FEMA camp nonsense. Fucking 15 years later. Mental. And of course, secular Sharia. Because wearing a mask is exactly like wearing a full niqab, apparently. And then there's a couple more, which we'll get to later. Specifically in regards to his defence of civil rights. Yeah, that'll be fun. Anyway. Sorry, soup. We want soup. Which is a joke only I will get because it's on the thing. Anyway. Yeah, so we're going to be watching 3. That's right, 3 videos. The first of which is one that someone sent to me and said, this is so mental you have to watch it, Kev. And I did, and thought, yes. And I fell down
There are many people...
Oh, hang on. I fell down the wormhole with Computing Forever, because I did... I just had a Manosphere episode on him fucking ages ago. It must have been like 3 years ago or something. And he was a conspiracy crank then. Like, he was uncritically tweeting out stuff from the fucking InfoWars. He's mental. But he's got even worse since. And I hadn't watched his stuff for ages, because why the fuck would I bother? And his entire timeline, if you go down it, it's just COVID bullshit, right? Where are we?
So no...
Shut up, twat. Anyway. There we go, right. So if you look at his timeline, it's all... COVID trance, how the Irish were hypnotised, breaking the COVID trance. Just before the dam breaks is one that we're going to look at, which is about COVID, responding to Richard Dawkins on COVID, how is this a thing that's about COVID, separating the truth from illusion with John Waters, who's a conspiracy crank, that's about COVID, the loss of property right, that's COVID, all the way down. Look, all of his fucking videos for the last few months, all COVID, all of them. So that's his thing now. It's a complete hoax. It doesn't really exist, and it's funny to debunk his nonsense. Shall we take a look?
There are many people who believe that the COVID narrative was set up specifically to prevent President Trump from being re-elected. But as we've explored...
Yeah, idiots believe that, Dave. Idiots. Complete morons. Conspiracy theorist nutbags believe that, Dave. Yeah.
Over the past number of months, There's quite a lot of evidence that this agenda has been in the works for a very long time and was set up long before Trump was even considering running for the presidency.
Based on what? Because I looked under his videos and his sources are a couple of articles. That's it. Apparently that's enough to prove the NWO agenda is a thing. Okay.
And we saw this in the Rockefeller Lockstep document of 2010, which outlines the scenario planning of such a
Rockefellers. He's going Rockefeller with it. Okay.
pandemic in great detail. Plans have been afoot for several years now by the World Health Organization.
Yeah, to deal with the pandemic. The World Health Organization, which, as the title of that organization may tell you, Dave, deals with health issues across the world. Obviously, one of their main things would be, what happened if there was a disease that affected people around the world? So yeah, for many years they've been planning about doing pandemic stuff, because pandemics happen, you dickhead.
Organization and the European Commission to issue mandatory vaccinations and digital immunity passports to EU citizens. As I always say to people who claim that all of the COVID madness will end if Trump gets re-elected on November 3rd, why would anything fundamentally change in Trump's approach to this crisis after he gets elected? What has Trump's presidency got to do with what Dan Andrews is doing to his people in Victoria, Australia?
Nothing. They're different countries, Dave. And you can see Dave beginning to spin his thesis here that Trump isn't crazy enough on COVID.
If this virus was specifically about undermining Trump's presidency,
it isn't.
Then why was the entire planet affected? Why were we all in lockdown and made to conform to masks and social distancing? It's pretty myopic to suggest that all of the social upheaval and tyranny of the past 6 months was just about Trump and America, when in fact, it was entirely global.
There's a touch of Dr. Strangelove going on here, isn't there? There's a little bit crazy. Little bit crazy. That's why he's got a cartoon of him, otherwise you'd literally see him jerking his arm down.
This entire scandal is obviously far larger than the United States and Donald Trump.
Yeah, yes it is, Dave. It absolutely is. It's a pandemic. It's across the world. Yes, it's far larger than the USA and Donald Trump. People talk about that a lot because, A, they're the cultural and political hegemon of the world, the USA. And B, Donald Trump has handled this so poorly that the vast majority, or that 200,000, so a very significant percentage, like 20% or something, of the world's overall COVID deaths have been in America, which is fucking scandalous. So that's why people talk about it a lot. But yes, a pandemic is not an epidemic. They are different things, David.
It is, after all, a global coup by the UN and its partners. And what's more,
You see, what I did was explain, albeit in rather crude terms, the basic outline of why it's not that. But Dave went a different route with it and went, it's a global coup. Oh, Jesus. Again, YouTube, why is this allowed? This is obviously dangerous. I mean, it's funny, don't get me wrong, but people are listening. He's got nearly 500,000 subscribers. That's not good, man. Fucking hell.
people need to be very wary of placing their faith in Trump. Despite initially being sceptical of the COVID narrative and even suggesting alternative treatments to vaccines, it seems...
Again, you literally think the hydroxychloroquine, which is a word I can't say, you know what I mean, works. You're a fucking crank. You're a fucking idiot.
It's now that Trump, like Boris Johnson in the UK, is now very much on board with it.
One issue that has come up is...
again, he thinks Trump isn't crazy enough. It's almost like these Q people genuinely believe Donald Trump is an outsider who's going to expose the NWO, rather than him just being a twat.
You have a vaccine. How do you properly distribute it? How do you get it out quickly to
Well, when we have the vaccine, we have the military all lined up, and the military is going to be doing it in a very powerful manner.
In a very powerful manner?
Yeah, that's the phrase that Donald Trump has said that you need to pull him up on.
These are people that don't usually do vaccines. They do soldiers and they do lots of other things that, frankly,
They do soldiers. America, please, for the love of God. You are a nation of such resource richness. You can have educated people in positions of authority. You can do that. I fucking believe in you. People who can form sentences. They do soldiers. Unless he means literally they're fucking soldiers. God. It's not the biggest issue. Like he's doing fucking genocide and shit. That's the big issue. But it's just on a sort of visceral level inside me. It angers me that he's so fucking stupid. He's so lacking in any eruditeness at all. It angers me. This is the best you can fucking do. Oh my God. The fuck has happened to you?
are more difficult, but we have...
You used to have great statesmen and orators, and now you've got this fucking cretin.
General, and
General.
Logistically, he's all set. Under my leadership, we'll produce a vaccine in record time. Biden and his very liberal running mate, the most liberal person in Congress, by the way, is not a competent person, in my opinion, would destroy this country and would destroy this economy.
Don't threaten me with a good time, motherfucker.
Should immediately apologize for the reckless anti-vaccine rhetoric that they are talking right now, talking about endangering lives and...
Well, no, it's not anti-vaccine. Your people are anti-vaccine. They're saying, let's not rush it.
It undermines science, and what's happening is all of a sudden you'll have this incredible vaccine, and because of that...
Undermining science, unlike you literally silencing scientists and taking the CDC information in-house and blatantly corrupting it. That doesn't undermine science, though. No.
Fake rhetoric. It's a political rhetoric. That's all it is, just for politics, because now they...
Unlike you literally going on about Kamala Harris being the most liberal senator. That's it, during a thing you're supposed to be talking about a national pandemic which has killed 200,000 American citizens. That's not political, though. No.
You see, we've done an incredible job, and in speed like nobody's ever seen before. This could have taken 2 or 3 years, and instead it's going to be...
I saw speed.
It's going to be done in a very short period of time. Could even have it during the month of October.
A rushed vaccine ready in time for the election?
So, contrary to all of the
well done, Dave.
lies, the vaccine, that they're politicalized. They'll say anything. And it's so dangerous.
Dangerous. It's so dangerous.
For our country, what they say. But the vaccine will be very safe and very effective, and it'll be...
How do you know it'll be very safe and effective, Donald? You're hoping it will be. We all hope it will be. But you don't know it will be. It could be a fucking disaster.
Delivered very soon. You could have a very big surprise coming up. I'm sure you'll be very happy, but the people will be happy. The people of the world will be happy.
Anyway, lately I've had some pushback on my criticisms of Trump on social media, and I can understand people's response. People believe that Trump is engaging in yet more 4D chess.
More 4D chess. He never started with 4D chess, you idiots. But thank you to Professor Ritt in the hydroxycolon cream. Thank you. Thank you. That is basically what I've been saying. Anyway. Yeah, he's never been doing 4D chess. You're an idiot, that Dave, that you think he ever has been.
Yes. And what he's done here is take an aggressive stance on the side of the vaccine. And as a result, he's now...
On the side of the vaccine? It doesn't exist, David. What are you talking about? Like, taking sides with the vaccine? It's a vaccine. You... Fucking hell.
Made the Democrats respond by saying they don't want his vaccine. So by comparison to where they were before, they almost sound anti-vax. So the suggestion is that this was Trump's plan all along, to undermine the necessity of the vaccine by getting everybody to turn against him.
By the way, the Democrats didn't say they didn't want his vaccine. They said they didn't want a rushed vaccine.
Nice theory.
And it's not his vaccine. He's not doing any of the work. Motherfucker doesn't understand how to tie his shoelaces, let alone do science.
And I sure hope it's true, and I want to believe that this is the case. but I just can't shake the feeling that this theory is built upon wishfulness. Now,
really, is it, Dave? Wow, maybe you've got one firing synapse in there. Well done.
regardless as to where you stand on these two clips that I've shown you, the one that really concerns me is this next one. Keep in mind, Trump did pull US funding from the World Health Organization in late May of this year, and that gave many of us hope initially, until he ploughed funding into Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, which of course was founded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. This
Dun dun dun! Bill Gates! No! The thing is, there are genuine issues with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and their approach to funding of medicine projects and stuff. And specifically, their sly obsession with polio, which sucks funds away from other areas, which can actually be dangerous and harmful. And that kind of, what was it? I heard it described as philanthropic despotism or something, where because they've got these pet ideas of wanting to deal with polio, so much money and attention gets dragged to that other areas which are killing fuck tons more people and are more dangerous don't get as much money and attention. So it can be dangerous. So there are genuine concerns there, but it's not that they're, I don't know, what fucking Bill Gates is personally putting chemicals in the water that turning the frogs gay. I don't know, but well, I do know he isn't. That's nonsense. But whatever Dave thinks is happening there with, I don't know, fucking Bill Gates and George Soros creating a devil cancer vaccine baby together or something, it's nonsense. They're just bumbling rich idiots. But well-intentioned, I imagine. I think they're doing it for good reasons. They're not like scientific experts.
clip is from June 4th.
Gavi operates with great transparency, and Boris Johnson is somebody with tremendous respect for you and everything.
What's H-E? H-E Donald Trump. Unless it's just he, Donald Trump. Which, to be fair, I believe is the correct pronoun. He does go by he, him. So, that's good, I suppose. But
Thing you do. He called, he said, you think you could do something maybe around the Oval Office or right by the Oval Office? I said, why not? It happens to be right behind me.
If you literally said that to him, you'd have had to been stood in that garden for it to be behind you. But did this conversation literally take place right there? He looks like he's having a stroke in that still. Anyway, wishful thinking aside. Yes. He's full of shit. Well, hello, Christy. How the fuckety fuck are we? We're looking at some nonsense. Anyway. So, Donald Trump, talking to Boris Johnson. Which, again, seems like a waste of technology, because there are more telephones than brain cells involved in that conversation, which is unfortunate.
As the coronavirus has shown, there are no borders. It doesn't discriminate. It's mean.
There are no borders? Well, where do you build a wall then? No!
It's nasty, but we're going to all take care of it together. It's great to be partnering with you. We will work hard. We will work strong. Send my regards to Boris, and good luck. Let's get the answer.
According to the US...
But the thing is, that's one of the few times he's ever sounded vaguely presidential. Look, it was still kind of garbled, like, we'll work tough, we'll work strong. Well, shut up, you twat. But he did like the right thing of saying, yeah, this is a thing. There are no borders. We need to work together cooperatively around the world. Let's find an answer to the problem. Okay, cool. But Dave's like, nah, that's fucked up. Presumably because he didn't attack Muslims in it or something, I don't know. He didn't call it the China virus. Fucking hell.
Embassy in Georgia, the United States has donated $1.16 billion more to Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, to prevent the spread of infectious diseases worldwide. President Trump provided a statement of support for Gavi at the public Gavi Pledge conference. hosted by the United Kingdom on June 4th. Bonnie Glick, Deputy Administrator of the US Agency for International Development, announced this as the largest ever US donation to Gavi. The multi-year commitment reflects the ongoing US collaboration with other countries to reduce the spread of preventable infectious diseases and prevent a backslide in immunization gains during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Awesome. Again, he's making me hate Donald Trump just a tiny bit less, because this is a case where he's put US money into a good thing, not necessarily a perfect thing. I wish he hadn't also cut money to the fucking WHO, but whatever. He's done the right thing. He spoke. He gave support in a statement at the conference in London. Collaboration with other countries to reduce the spread of preventable infectious diseases. Good. That's a good thing, Dave. Like, there is so much shit you can criticise Trump for, and I do, and will continue to. This is one of the only good things he's ever done. The fuck is wrong with you? Why has he got me defending... You're such a crank. You've got me defending a man who I literally said I want to die. Again, no, not call for violence. No, the natural causes is old, right? I said I would celebrate if he died. That's how much I despise the guy. And you've got me saying, you know what, he did one thing that was, okay. Fucking hell.
According to this World Health Organization document, program's budget from 2018...
why are the rock band The Who getting involved in this? There's no need for them. Or is it the Doctor? I don't know.
18 to 2019. On page 21, it shows the United States was previously the biggest financial contributor to the World Health Organization. Since Trump terminated US funding recently, that means that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is now the biggest financial contributor. And like I say, you can clearly see here that Gavi is listed as a major financial contributor to the World Health Organization. So that means by contributing financially to Gavi, which of course was founded by Gates to begin with, Trump has, from what I can see, strengthened Bill Gates' influence of the World Health Organization. As you can see, this looks a lot like a kind of sleight of hand, pulling funding from the World Health Organization only to fund Bill Gates' Gavi instead, which in turn contributes financially to the World Health Organization.
So, do you think you've been played for the millionth time by Trump then, David? I think so, yeah.
According to this NPR article dated April 15th, for the 2-year cycle of 2018 and 2019, US contributions accounted for about 20% of the World Health Organization's total budget. The money comes in two streams. The US contribution to the pool of assessed fees is $237 million. That's 22% of the total assessed fees, the largest share of any nation. By comparison, China contributes 12% of this pool of monies, and some low-income countries pay 0.1%.
Okay, this is just good information.
In addition, the US pledged more than $656 million for specific programs,
which is only $10 million away from the number of the beast. Soros confirmed.
According to the World Health Organization's program budget portal. These voluntary contributions were earmarked for programs including polio eradication, health and nutrition services, vaccine preventable diseases, tuberculosis, HIV, and preventing and controlling outbreaks.
Good. Again, that's a good use of US taxpayers' money. It just is.
So that means the US was funding the World Health Organization to the tune of $893 million. And this is confirmed in this World Health Organization report on America's contribution updated until Q4 of 2019.
Note he's using WHO figures. They will come in handy later.
This article from kff.org breaks down America's annual financial contributions to Gavi since 2001. As you can see, for the past 3 years, America has been funding Gavi $290 million per year. So, America has been giving Gavi $290 million per year for the past 3 years. So $1.16 billion is a big pledge by comparison. So by removing funding from the World Health Organization and instead giving $1.16 billion to Gavi, the US has indirectly maintained funding to the World Health Organization because Gavi is one of the World Health Organization's major financial contributors.
It's almost like Trump's full of shit and he just does stuff to rile up reactions from dickheads like you. Like, you literally thought, yay, he's taking money away from the World Health Organization. Yay! Because you're a moron. Whereas actually what he did was just redirect it and it's still going there. Because he's all smoke and mirrors. You fucking idiot. There's no 4D chess taking place here. He's just a liar.
It's all ultimately going to the same place after all. I just have to conclude by asking, is Trump playing the globalists, or are we the ones being played?
Well, as globalists don't exist, David, you have your answer.
Before I begin this video...
Yeah, there's an advert for this movie. I don't give a fuck. Anyway, where are we? Oop. Oh yeah, no, he got kicked off YouTube, this Irish guy, who, by the way, describes as a patriot, which just reconfirms for me, whenever someone goes out of their way to call themselves a patriot, what they are is a fascist. Almost always, without exception.
So today we're going to be responding to these tweets by Richard Dawkins, posted on the 21st of September. He writes, "You can argue over whether masks hand..."
Oh, of course he means Jews. Yeah. When he talks, when anyone of them talk about globalists, what they actually mean is Jewish people. Yeah. They might deny it, but you know exactly what they mean. We ask them for examples, and they'll almost always come up with like Soros, Mark Zuckerberg, you know, other Jewish people.
1st of September, he writes, "You can argue over whether masks..."
Yeah, in this one, sorry, he's going to be responding to these two tweets from Richard Dawkins, who, again, Richard Dawkins is a twat, but he's also a scientist, and puts out really pretty uncontroversial takes here about not being a prick during a pandemic. Dave doesn't like that, though, because he thinks it's a plandemic. It's a hoax.
Hand washing, banning groups, etc. are effective. What you cannot argue is that you are personally entitled to take the risk as a matter of individual liberty. You risk other lives as well as your own. It's just elementary epidemiology. And the second tweet, you can argue...
Yes, Mark Zuckerberg is Jewish. I don't know about his religious beliefs, but I know he's of Jewish extraction, if you will. He's of Jewish heritage. But yeah, he's Jewish, yeah. So when they talk about Zuckerberg in that way, you know what they mean. Right? And by the way, Mark Zuckerberg is a prick, but it's not his Jewishness. He's just a capitalist. That's what they do. You know.
Wrongly, that the risk to others is small, just as you can...
It's what capitalists do. Just to be clear, I don't mean that's what Jewish people do. I mean specifically that's what capitalists do. They do whatever they can to make money, because they're capitalists. There are lots of fine Jewish socialists, and I love them all dearly.
You can argue wrongly that the risk to others from drunk driving is small. What you cannot argue, as many right-wing idiots in effect do, is that personal liberty is the only consideration that matters. Okay, Richard, so there are politicians, medical spokespeople, and media talking heads making the claim that based on their evidence, COVID is so dangerous that it justifies the curtailment of individual liberties. There is a cost-benefit analysis to be done here, clearly, because there are significant negative repercussions and consequences to individual physical and mental health, to the economy, and to society in general.
But you genuinely, Dave, don't think this is a real thing. So you doing the whole like, there's a cost-benefit analysis, how dangerous is it? You don't believe it's real. You literally don't. Let's go onto his fucking Gab, right? Gab, Dave Cullen. Not Cullub. That don't make any fucking sense. Here he is. Because yeah, he's on Gab, he's not on Twitter, lol. And it's all like, plandemic, COVID trance. Fuck off. Breaking the COVID trance. Irish under siege because of virus. Manchester bars call for... China's global lockdown propaganda campaign. Useful resource for... Scam19.com is a useful resource for red-pilling people. Scam19.com. Dave, don't pretend that what you're doing here is a reasoned discourse on the pros and cons and blah blah blah. You don't think it's real. You don't think any precaution should be taken because it isn't a real thing. You, David, are a fucking lunatic spouting dangerous shit. Stop pretending like you're just like, let's have a discussion about public policy choices and the pros and cons and individual freedom, because you're just a crank. It's so dishonest.
General, from the COVID restrictions themselves. There are negative long-term side effects from masks, social distancing, prolonged isolation, delayed cancer treatments, destroyed businesses, job losses, people falling into poverty, etc. Is the virus so deadly that it justifies the consequences of these mitigation measures? Are these measures sustainable long-term? We should be able to ask these questions.
You are able to ask the questions. This video is still up. Again, as with the deplatforming thing, if you're publicly screaming about deplatforming and not being deplatformed, if you're publicly out there saying cancel culture's bad and you're not getting cancelled, what am I supposed to care? You've got, look, J.K. Rowling's transphobic book is a bestseller. I'm sorry, that means that the cancel culture hasn't really had much of an impact on them, has it?
These are legitimate concerns, and moreover, the efficacy of such measures as quarantining healthy people, mask wearing and social distancing must be addressed, given the catastrophic impact that all of the COVID
quarantining healthy people? Where's that happening? Is that happening?
restrictions
so.
and or lockdown measures will have on individuals and society. There is an obligation for all of us to question the veracity of the data that is being used to justify them.
Questioning the data is one thing. Citing scam19.com would suggest to me that you're not asking questions in the same way that the 9/11 truthers weren't asking questions. What you're doing is you have a preconceived idea in your head, you're asking questions, and then when given the answers to those questions, saying fake news and running away, going la 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 la, I'm not listening. Again, fundamentally dishonest.
If the measures are found to be disproportionate to the level of the threat, then we should not proceed with these measures any longer. The burden of proof as to the severity of the illness and responsibility to justify the restrictions on individual liberties is on those making the claim. When you say the following in your tweet, what you cannot argue is that
thank you for the raid, young Javier. Go and support everyone. Hang on. Where's me fucking mouse gone? Fuck's sake. The curse has disappeared. The curse of the cursor has struck again. Anyway, Javi raided with his peeps. Go and support him. There we go. Hello, Javier, and to Javier's peeps. Good to have you. We're looking at a right-wing crank talking shit about the coronavirus. Should we take a look at that? Anyway, go and support Javi. It's Javier Trino, JAVITRIONO on the Twitches. And also as Conedo de Izquierdas, which I can't fucking spell, on YouTube. It's very good. Anyway, yes, feel free to spam your links and stuff, Javi, in both my YouTube and Twitch chat. And everyone go and subscribe.
you are personally entitled to take the risk as a matter of individual liberty. You risk other lives as well as your own. Firstly, I can argue whatever I want. Thank you.
Oh, what a fucking petulant little child. I can argue whatever I want. That, Dave, he wasn't literally saying you can't argue that. You fucking 12-year-old twat. Or mentally fucking 10-year-old twat, whatever. Richard Dawkins is not saying you can't do so. He's saying you can't morally and correctly do so. You're full of shit if you do so, is the point.
Thank you very much.
He's insufferable. He's fucking insufferable.
But basically, what you're suggesting, Richard, is a recipe for people never being able to leave their homes because they might get someone somewhere killed unintentionally.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
It's clear.
What Richard Dawkins is saying is that there are reasonable things one can do to try and minimise these things. Okay? social distancing, mask wearing, quarantining if you have the symptoms, or if you get a positive test result come back. There are reasonable things you can do. Richard Dawkins is not saying everyone has to live in a hermetically sealed bubble for the rest of their entire fucking lives, and he's not suggesting that that is the measures that have been put in place right now to deal with this issue could be applied or should be applied to other issues, because again, scientists have to go on like a case-by-case basis. Different problems require different solutions or different mitigations of risk, because the straw man you're about to use is so mind-numbingly dense, it makes me want to cut off my own toes in Minecraft.
Clear from the fatality data that COVID is no more deadly, perhaps even less deadly, than the flu.
Right, that's not actually true, but also it's on top of the things that already exist. And it's a new thing. We don't know it might mutate. We can't just go, well, it's not that deadly, let's fuck it up. Also, the numbers that are out at the moment are based on the fact that there are those mitigation factors in play. If we go down your line, things will be a lot worse. Trust me, they will. I've got statistics in a second.
This virus is clearly not Ebola. People are not dropping dead on the streets of London, for example.
Really? Okay. You're forcing me to do it, aren't you, David? COVID deaths, London. Oh, there have actually been nearly 7,000 deaths in London, Dave. So, yeah. I mean, they're not literally dropping in the streets, but you've got 7,000 deaths in London, Dave. So actually, yes, people are dying of this in London. A lot. A lot. Okay?
There's no mass graves. Funeral homes.
Well, actually, in Italy, there were very significant issues with grave digging and morgues and mortuary places and stuff. They were literally having to have refrigerated vans driving down the street collecting bodies, like some sort of modern day bring out your dead Black Death bullshit. So actually, yeah, there are problems with it. Now, is it Ebola? No, it's not Ebola. No one ever said it was. In fact, more people have died of this than Ebola in this year anyway. So, But even so, Dave, there are significant issues with it. But does it have to be something that kills 100 million people for it to be a problem that we can mitigate the risk of? No one's saying that you should give up all your civil liberties. No one's saying you should give up any civil liberties permanently. Well, other than fascists, as we'll get onto with you in a second. But there are mitigation factors or mitigation tactics we can use, like wearing masks, social distancing, that sort of thing. Really pretty minor shit. Now, there are some bigger things like quarantining, national lockdowns. Those are big fucking issues, I absolutely accept. But you're not doing a good faith discussion of the rights and wrongs of public policy options. You're a crank trying to push a conspiracy theory. So, shut up.
Aren't struggling to keep up with the demand. We're not hearing the sirens of ambulances non-stop throughout our towns and cities. Hospitals are operating at...
He literally thinks it has to be Shaun of the Dead level for it to be a problem. How do you deal with this level of idiocy? I'm ashamed that I'm a fellow ginger beard wearer, a sporter of the hirsute ginger nature, with this absolute creep. It's a shame. You bring our great tradition of the ginger beard wearing into disrepute with your drivel.
Reduced capacity. ICUs are not overrun. The vast...
Actually, they have been, Dave, in various parts of the world for various times. They've been literally having to build, essentially, shack additions. Not Shaquille O'Neal. Shack as in S-H-A-C-K. More like Love Shack, but with, death instead of love. Additions to hospitals around the world. Tent hospitals, in essence, in major industrialised nations, because the ICU units have not been able to deal with the number of cases. So again, You're lying. You're just fucking lying.
vast majority of people don't know anyone who has it, let alone anybody.
Well, if I don't know anyone who has it, it must not be a problem. The fact that there have been like a fucking million deaths around the world is irrelevant. Who cares? I don't know anyone. I mean, the fact that I'm not, like, from America or fucking Wuhan or wherever is irrelevant to this.
Who's died from it. There is nothing out of the
Also, we do all know someone, Herman Cain, lol.
ordinary when looking at monthly death numbers for 2020 when compared to previous years.
Again, you're lying. The excess death numbers in various places, including Britain. I can't speak for Ireland particularly, but certainly in Britain our excess death numbers are significantly higher than they have been in previous years. You're a liar.
In fact, here in Ireland, a country with significant COVID restrictions, more people died in the first 5 months of 2018 than in 2020.
Yeah, because of significant restrictions. Look, I mean, I don't even know if these numbers are correct. I have absolutely no idea. They're coming from Dave, so they might be coming from fucking scam19.com, who knows. But, yeah, there have been COVID restrictions, which may well account for that number. It may be a freak statistic, who knows? Dave, you can't take this one data set, assuming it's true, which I don't for a second believe is the case. But even if it were, that doesn't actually prove anything, because we know from data from around the world that this is a very significant public health issue. Like, do you think governments want to shut down their economies? Because that doesn't help them, right? Politicians don't want to shut down economies, because that's how they get fucking thrown out of office if the economy tanks. The economy's going well, you can basically get away with whatever. We've seen it around the fucking world. They don't want to do it. They do it because they also don't want hundreds of thousands of people to die. Well, governments who give a fuck don't. Donald Trump's clearly fine with it because he's trash, like you, Dave.
This is an overblown hoax of the highest order.
If it's a hoax, Dave, why are you discussing the rights and wrongs of anything? Surely you think any restrictions whatsoever are bad. So don't come with this like, we need to have a principled discussion about the rights and wrongs, the positives and negatives, the drawbacks. You just think it's a lie, which is ridiculous.
Deadliness of the virus matters, and therefore the restrictions on individual liberties should be in direct proportion to the level of the danger. It's been clear for several months now that this is not the case. How many...
Direct proportion, okay. And you're against the restriction on civil liberties, you claim. Shall we take a look at how Dave responds to the removal of civil liberties for the people of Russia? This, again, from Dave's Gab. Again, he reposted it. This is his page. It's all legit. Russia making the changes America won't, to ensure the next 100 years will be dominated by Russia. If only America would match this. If only we would far surpass them for ages to come. So he's clearly in support of the list of things below. Right? Gay marriage is banned by constitutional law. So you're against the removal of civil liberties, are you, David? Unless it's gay people's rights to get married. Okay. God is now included in the Constitution, as is Christianity. So removal of freedoms of religion as well. Freedom of conscience. But you're in favour of that. Okay. Putin can serve more than 2 terms as president, so dictatorial government. Removal of democracy, democratic rights. Ban dual citizens from holding public office. Removal of more civil liberties. Politicians must have lived in Russia for at least 25 years to run for office. I mean, whatever. Ethnic Russians to be declared state founders and the First Nation who will guide and command the other nations of the Russian Federation. So that would be ethnic superiority. Okay. Minimum wage cannot be lower than subsistence levels. That's actually a good idea, just in general, but whatever. Doesn't remove or add anything particular. Guarantee of pensions for citizens as inflation. Protect Russian language and demand all citizens speak it. Limit citizenship of the former USSR to those who are ethnic Russians. Specifically barring most immigrants to Russia from ever obtaining citizenship. Removal of rights. Good. Good, good. Restrict abortion rights to cases of incest, rape, deformity, or to non-citizens. So, little bit eugenics, little bit genocide-y there. But yeah, the removal of basic civil rights from everyone. But you're in favour of that. But being asked to wear a mask so that you don't cough old granny into the grave is a bad idea. Dave, you're a fascist. You're a fascist crank. Shut the fuck up.
How many times have you gone about your day with a cold or flu and passed it on to someone else who passed it down a long chain of people until it reached somebody elderly somewhere in a nursing home, and this resulted in them dying? This may have happened many times throughout our lives, and we'd have no way of knowing. This is a natural part of human existence. We don't intentionally wish harm on others.
Yeah, but again, there are mitigation factors, aren't there? This and this is a new thing, so we don't know it's like the flu or anything like that. But again, there are mitigation factors. Like, if you have the flu, probably don't go visit Granny that week, because you know it's going to be dangerous for them. That doesn't mean you stop doing things completely, but ultimately, if you're sick, don't go into a place where you're likely to spread it. And as we don't know the infection rate fully of this virus, wear a mask if you have to go out. It seems like a sensible precaution to me. But no, Dave's an idiot. And again, don't act like what you're doing here is a sensible discussion. You think it's a hoax, just be honest about it.
But we also
take us to scam19.com and show us all your David Icke information.
So must accept that death is a part of life. Therefore, vulnerable people
Therefore, yeetus the fetus. All of it.
Should decide for themselves if they wish to quarantine and take precautions or not.
No, Dave. Again, as to Richard Dawkins' point, individual liberties don't come into the equation, because what about my individual liberty not to have to breathe in your fucking COVID mess? No, we live in different countries, but you know the point I'm making. Wearing a mask doesn't really protect you, it protects other people. If you're ill, stay the fuck at home. Anyway. And Dave, it's not like you have to go out. You earn your living on the internet, you dopey bastard. What actual infringement on your lifestyle is it? Do you leave the house anyway?
But the choice should never be taken away from them. In my opinion, the vulnerability of elderly people is being weaponized by the government as an excuse to take away the rights and freedoms of the rest of the population.
Which you should only do in order to be homophobic. You should only allow the government to take away people's rights if you think gay people are icky. Dave, don't pretend you're for civil liberties. You're a fool. You're not for human rights. You're just a liar. You're a fascist liar.
Surely we must strive to actually live life in the world in a meaningful manner, and not to simply exist in permanent imprisonment because we're crippled and paralyzed by the fear of negatively impacting upon somebody else. That's just pure neurosis.
Yeah, okay, Dave. What happened to the NAP? Why are you aggressing on people with your COVID, David? Oh yeah, just like all fucking libertarians, you're actually just a fascist in disguise, okay.
Life carries with it a certain degree of...
Again, libertarian as in rightist libertarian, the North American incorrect version.
...risk, and people should be permitted to decide for themselves if they wish to take that risk. What you're suggesting...
No, but again, Dave, you fucking idiot. It's not a matter of personal... It's like, okay, if you want to smoke in your own home, that's fine. You're only fucking yourself over. If you want to smoke in a pub, you're fucking everyone over. What happened to the individual liberties of all of those people? That's the thing, right? So if you want to have... Well, if you want... No one wants to have COVID. But if you have COVID, have it in your own home. Wait for it to do its thing. If it becomes too bad, then you go to the hospital. Fair, right? But you don't just go out into the public and start spitting in people's faces because fuck it, civil liberties or something. Like, it's so crazy. The twisted priorities of dickheads like this. Just because they believe a lie, basically.
Richard, is that people's individual liberties are selfish. I'm not responsible for any...
Yeah, what selfish gay people wanting to get married take their rights away from them? You cunt.
Anyone else's health. Everyone is responsible for their own individual health.
No, that's the point of an infectious disease. No, they're not. I can live as healthy a lifestyle as I like. I don't, but I could eat like the most healthy food, exercise the perfect amount, live the most healthy, risk-free life anyone's ever lived. And then some crazy cunt like you could come along and cough in my face and I'm dead 2 weeks later. That's the point. No, we're not all just responsible for our own health. Infectious diseases transmit from one person to another person. That's how they work, right? Either through the air or through bodily fluids or whatever. Like there are various types. And we all have a responsibility to other people to not endanger them. Again, we can't completely remove risk. As you say, death is a part of life. As day follows night. It happens. It's unfortunate. But what we can do is put in reasonable restrictions, especially during heightened times of virus pandemics and epidemics and local geographic restrictions and things, in order to mitigate that risk and to try and reduce the overall numbers of deaths and suffering. Because again, even those who don't die, because he brings up the death number, I think in the next video, the final one we're going to watch, it's not just the people who die, Dave. There's long-term suffering involved in all diseases, to some extent or another. And with COVID, it would appear from the early data that especially in younger people who have it and recover, which is the majority of people that get it will recover, thankfully. Because it's not like the fucking day after tomorrow or something, whatever Dave thinks it needs to be to give a fuck about it. The health impacts on the heart are the equivalent of having had a heart attack. It's the long-term health implication of having had COVID, been hospitalised and survived. So it has a very significant long-term health impact on that person. So no, Dave, you don't get to go, oh, but I don't want to wear a mask. Individual liberties. Because you're hurting other people. Okay? You are shortening the lives of other people, whether they die instantly or straight away of the COVID, or because of the fucking health implications knocking 10, 15, 20 years off their life. You selfish prick.
Also, Richard, in your second tweet you say, just as you can argue wrongly that the risk to others from drunk driving is small, we don't have to talk about drunk driving, Richard. Driving a car sober is a risk by itself.
Yes, but there are mitigation factors we can put in place, like forcing people to learn how to drive so they can drive safely. Seat belts, airbags, safety standards on cars, crumple zones, making sure that we have proper crossings, proper lights and zebra crossings and stop lights and all the rest of it, right? Roundabouts, speed bumps to slow people down, specific speed limits outside of like schools and stuff where kids run out into the street or whatever. There are things we can put in place to mitigate the dangers. The wearing of a mask is the equivalent of a speed bump, for instance, to slow the cars down so that if something does happen, again, we can't stop it completely, the overall impact on society at large is reduced. The numbers will be reduced because of it. The overall damage will be reduced. So yeah, the analogy does work, Dave, but people don't just get into a car and drive. You have to learn to drive. There are mitigation factors put in place. There are barriers and fucking bollards and stuff to stop people just, mowing people down. It's just a thought.
Road accidents happen all the time, and road deaths happen on a regular basis. Most of them happen without a drop of alcohol being involved. If we apply your logic about masks and hand washing and banning groups and other such measures, for example, by that logic, your right to drive a car should not trump a pedestrian's right to not get run over by you.
No, Dave, your right to drive is fine. Your right to exist during COVID is fine. But mitigation factors are put in place, like forcing people to learn how to drive, forcing people to wear a mask, social distancing, zebra crossings, whatever. The analogy does work, but not remotely in the way you think it does.
Because there's a risk that you could kill someone every time you get into your car, right? So therefore, ban cars? You see,
No.
I can do this as well, Richard.
Yeah, you can do reductio ad absurdum. Yes, you can. You shouldn't, though, because it's dishonest, Dave.
Honestly, your statements in these two tweets sound to me less like what I would expect an atheist to say and more like what I would expect a Jainist to say.
Oh, are you back to pretending to be an atheist again? Because didn't you take the God pill, Dave? You're an idiot. Anyway, the last one is called Just Before the Dam Breaks. It's fun. It's a little bit longer. That's what she said. But we're going to take a look at it anyway, because why not? Why not? I've got nothing better to do. Yes. Anyway, sorry. Yes. Stop reading the chat, Kev. Stop listening to other people. Take Dave's advice. Be selfish. Don't listen to other people. Just plough through them in your car. I think that's what he said. I wasn't listening.
It's not easy, but I do have to try to be somewhat forgiving of the utter compliance and docility of the Irish public when it comes.
Yeah, you're so much better than everyone else, aren't you, Dave? Are you big-brained motherfucker?
Comes to the COVID narrative. After all, the populace at large are saturated in relentless and sophisticated propaganda on a
from the Jews.
Constant basis every day. Turn on the television and
that's what he means, by the way. I'm not saying from the Jew. Dave saying, like, oh, Soros is pumping your kids full of, I don't know, AIDS or something.
News is bleating at them about worrying surges, clusters and spikes in COVID cases. The messaging is designed to instill as much fear, anxiety and despair that the public doesn't even think for a moment that there's hardly a mention of a single death, just cases, which we know are only increasing due to increased PCR testing, which is rife with false positives.
No, he really is. He's Trump. He's Trump on, well, more idiotic, I suppose. He's just Trump with a ginger beard, which is, again, would be a shame for ginger beard wearers around the world. Ginger beards of the world unite. Anyway, yeah, just because people are testing more and finding more doesn't mean it's the testing causing it. If you stopped testing altogether, those cases would still exist. Dave, you idiot. Finding out information doesn't make the information appear. Or doesn't make the reality the information describes appear. The reality exists, regardless of whether humans are observing it or not.
Positive results, and usually only finds antibodies to past coronaviruses that a person has had. No one ever wants.
And his evidence for this is nothing. Nothing. Should we take a look at his... has he got a list of sources? What's this? An independent article. Dr. Hiko Schoening, who, by the way, is a fucking crank. A Daily Mail article. The Conservative Treehouse. Lovely. An independent link that doesn't work. Anti-lockdown. And then Boris Johnson faces rebellion. Yeah. Yeah. Which is just a clip of the thing. So, I mean, I suppose that's a step up from scam19.com. But, you know.
Wonders if the news will follow up in a few weeks to find out how many of those new cases actually went on to be ICU admissions and how many of...
Hang on, net zero deaths in 4 months. Is that true? Is that actually true? I don't know. Who's Ivor Cummings? God dare I look. Ivor Cummings. Ivor Cummings is educated at University College Dublin. The Fat Emperor. Econ Lab. Oh God. High fat, low carbs. Ivor Cummings Wikipedia. Who is Ivor Cummings? Let's have a look. Some source media outlet covers saying how the COVID crisis ends with overcomings. Netizens have been wondering whether Irish technical expert married. So he's a nutrition person. Okay. Do I care then? I don't know. Anyway, and we are locking down hard. Science died. Hang on, so if we've locked down and there's no deaths, then isn't that a good thing? I don't know. Anyway. I certainly don't trust this prick who's putting out scam19.com as a source. So
lead to deaths in a few weeks' time. As Ivor Cummins pointed out on the 21st of September, case-demic rages on, still not even generating the normal mortality associated with approaching winter season. Today's numbers attached. And as you can see the graph here, the death rate...
Because if you're locking down, the spread of flu won't spread as much as well, won't it? So... Okay.
rate for the past 4 months has been on the floor, while the number of cases has been increasing, which of course is due to the increased amount of testing. This has been going on for months, and still the public never considers this. You know, the propaganda is so powerful when a person's critical reasoning skills are disabled. Like what?
Oh yeah, your critical reasoning skills, like David Icke's a super awesome source. Yeah, you've really got your critical thinking skills down to a T, David.
No one ever considers that outside of the television news, radio, newspapers, and the social distancing signs and stickers and mandatory face masks, no one has any actual evidence from their own personal life that they're actually living in a major pandemic.
Well, apart from the relatives of the hundreds of thousands of people around the world who've died. Just because you don't know anyone, Dave, doesn't mean anything. Literally doesn't mean anything. No one's saying that everyone's dead. But trust me, there are lots of people whose relatives have died. Lots. Millions around the world.
Next to nobody knows anybody who's been hospitalised from COVID.
I know people who've been hospitalised. Also, Boris Johnson was hospitalised because of it, Dave. Just saying. Herman Cain was, and he died. Lol.
Alone died from it. After the news bulletin ends, typically there's TV advertisements about how COVID is still a problem and how people should socially distance, wash their hands and wear a mask, etc.
Oh no, they're doing public information advertising. Terrible.
So the fear-mongering of the news is reinforced afterwards. If you're driving in your car and you switch on the radio, flicking from one station to the next, you'll eventually hear advertisements about COVID or about the track and trace app or something. I was in a shopping centre some weeks ago, and every couple of minutes a recorded message would come over the PA system. Something like, "As per government guidelines, the wearing of face coverings is now mandatory in public settings." And then comes the neuro-linguistic programming. "By wearing a face mask, you're showing that you care about keeping other people safe."
If you just say it in a silly voice, Dave, you make it sound bad. Yeah. Yeah, they're saying there are government rules in place. So wear a mask, because people forget, or are selfish cunts like you.
Translation, if you don't wear one, you're basically selfish and don't care about other people.
Yes, David, you are. I mean, that is precisely what you are.
That's a lot of subtle social pressure to apply on the psyche
of an
subtle. Already vulnerable and fearful people. When I see people scrambling and scurrying to put on their face masks just before they cross the threshold of the entrance to a shop, it's plain to see that they've been broken.
That's the thing on a personal level, I despise most about conspiracy theorists, is the smugness of them. Like, they're so much better. They know better. These other people are broken sheeple. I know everything. I'm a genius. Listen to David Icke. Fucking hell.
An animal that's been trained by its master to accept a new form of behaviour and obedience. Maybe eventually...
No, it's that if they don't, they'll be kicked out of the shop. It's got nothing to do with conditioning. They have to wear the mask, otherwise they won't be served. They'll be thrown out of the shop. So if you want to go into the shop and buy something, or even just peruse the wares therein, you have to wear a fucking mask. It's just called rules, man. Like,
They'll forget why they even had to put on the mask in the first place. All they'll know is that in order to enter a shop or get on a bus, they have to wear a face mask.
Then who's going to forget why they're wearing a mask? What are you talking about?
Meantime, Simon Dolan of Keep Britain Free recently visited Sweden and met with Anders Tegnell and comedian Sean Collins, who...
Now this is funny because he's now going to pray in aid Sweden, who a few weeks ago were like cultural Marxisms, the evil Sweden. But now apparently they all love Sweden.
Shared video footage of their time there. Sweden is completely normal. No social distancing, no mask wearing in the streets or shops. Businesses are open, streets are bustling with crowds of people, pubs and bars are doing normal business, no restrictions. Life is normal there. Simon posted on Twitter, interview this morning with the wonderful lady who runs the ABBA museum here. I asked whether Swedish people thought the rest of the world were idiots in terms of what they're doing for COVID. Well, yes, was the answer.
So, it would appear that Sweden is a bastion of freedom and has totally removed itself from the COVID problem. Clearly, right? Clearly, it's a hoax. It's a pandemic, right? And Sweden has exposed this for the world. So I don't suppose a really, really quick search of information, which I did last night, could show that that's bollocks. Now, bear in mind the thing I told you to remember earlier, he used WHO information, did he not? So, no amount of, oh, it's globalists gets you around that motherfucker. This is the overall number of, the cumulative number of cases in order across nations, right? America by far, then India, Brazil, blah, 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 right? And you scroll down until you get to the 41st overall nation. 41st total number, Sweden, right? Now you think to yourself, that's not too bad. 41st, that means there are 40 countries with more cases, right? Indeed, that is true. That on the face of it, that would appear to be not so terrible, because there are 40 countries with numbers of cases that are worse. But if we just go on to the overall population numbers around the world, where's Sweden? Is it number 4? It's not number 41. Ooh, where is it? Dare I say, in terms of total population? Oh, it's all the way down at number 91. Right there. Right there. 91st in the world. So, 41st in terms of overall numbers of coronavirus cases. 91st in terms of overall number of people. So, they're 50 places higher in the table, which is bad, right? 50 places higher than if they'd just broken even and finished up where they should be as an average of the world population. Seems to me like maybe Sweden have totally fucked themselves. A nation of 10 million people, 91st in the world, 41st overall number of cases. They've shit on themselves. The fact that the director of the fucking ABBA museum seems to think the rest of the world are full of shit, who gives a fuck? Clearly, she works in a tourism industry. She wants people to go to Sweden. She might have a slight bias in wanting international travel to continue. So COVID restrictions wouldn't help that, would they? So the fact that one Swedish person said a thing is irrelevant to the fact that Sweden have totally and completely fucked up their coronavirus situation and are a laughingstock around the world for it. Now, Britain and America are too. I'm not lecturing to the Swedes, I'm just telling you the statistical information. Anyway.
Meantime, in the UK, a 10 p.m. curfew has been introduced for pubs and bars because apparently the virus is able to tell time and becomes especially aggressive after 9:59 p.m. But wouldn't you know it, Parliament...
Now that's fair. That is a ridiculous rule that's been introduced, and that is true. The bars have to shut at 10 p.m. That's true. That's a ridiculous thing. But that you did ask people to vote for that Conservative government in December, so I mean, that is, I don't really give two fucks for your feigned outrage on the matter. Thank you to Anonymous for gifting a tier 1 sub to Capricious Nerd. Okay, thank you. Yeah. You can stick your phony outrage up your arse, Dave. I don't care.
Bars are exempt from this curfew.
This is a couple of days old now. That's actually changed. They are workplace canteens, so they will remain open after 10 p.m, but they won't serve alcohol after 10 p.m. So it will still be like, people were outraged by that, and rightly fucking so, that those bars were going to stay open. But they are workplace canteens. MPs and members of staff and researchers often work long into the night. They need somewhere to go to rest and to eat. So they will remain open but won't serve alcohol after 10 p.m. Which I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that change that clarification hadn't been introduced at the time that he put this video together.
Article is from theindependent.co.uk, and it states, Parliament's bars are exempt from the government's new coronavirus restrictions imposed last week, including the 10 p.m. curfew, stricter rules on face coverings and test and trace data gathering requirements. Bars in the House of Commons are not subject to the new rules for hospitality venues, as they are designated workplace canteens. Under the new rules, workplace canteens may remain open where there is no practical alternative for staff at that workplace to obtain food. Well, isn't that a very convenient loophole for the government? Another large freedom protest took place in Trafalgar Square in...
Well, no, it wasn't convenient for the government, which is why they backtracked. But again, that probably happened after he put the video together. Just to clarify, again, he's making me defend the British government, who are scum, who I despise. Anyway, those will remain open after 10 p.m. because they're workplace canteens, basically where people who work in Parliament, because even when the Parliament isn't... they're not actually talking, they've shut down for the day, parliamentarians still work from their offices, their staff and researchers and stuff, and cleaners and all sorts. That's basically a 24/7 open building. There's always something happening. So there are always workers in there at any given time of the day. They need somewhere to go to eat and drink. But they won't serve alcohol after 10 p.m, so it will be in line with the rest of the country, where public bars will be shut after 10 p.m.
in London over the weekend. According to the brilliant Carl Vernon and his report on his channel, he said that this protest was a good deal bigger than the last one in London. The police once...
Yeah, people are pretty pissed off in Britain. But it's not because people think it's a pandemic, it's because the government are handling it really badly. And it was just a shame to see fucking Right Said Fred, literally the band, the shit band from the 90s, coming out with their anti-COVID mask thing. It's a shame. It really was a shame, because they're kind of quite silly and funny in many respects. But it just proves that they're also too stupid for their own shirt, which is, a thing.
Once again agitated the crowd to try to contrive those all-important headlines for certain media outlets about how the protesters were violent, when in fact it was the thuggish police who were instigating all the violence. This photograph has been doing the rounds on social media. The police are out of control. When all of this is over, a full root and branch inquiry into the police force and their behaviour will be needed. The UK police have been pretty crazy for many years now, going after people's offensive tweets, for God's sake. But now...
Oh, he's still on about people going after tweets. Fucking hell. 2016 never ends with these fucks, man.
Now it's stepped up to another level. The protests are consistently peaceful, and the police are now behaving like Antifa, trying to intimidate...
Yeah, they're behaving like Antifa, not like the fascist scum that you ally yourself with, Dave. No, cool.
And taunt the public into pushing back so that they can justify arrests, or so that someone in the mainstream media can snap a photograph...
Also, you were bootlicking when they were blackbagging people in Portland, so calm yourself down with your newfound ACAB status, yeah?
At the right time and make it look like the protesters just randomly started clashing with police for no reason. Regardless, it doesn't look like this strategy is really working anymore. Everybody is calling it out on social media. In addition, Dr. Heiko Schöning was arrested at the protest. He is the leader of Germany's extra-parliamentary inquiry. He spoke at Hyde Park on Saturday, and after his arrest, he was unlawfully held in Wandsworth Police Station.
Now, by the way, Heiko Schöning is a fucking lunatic, crank, piece of shit, but he shouldn't have been arrested, I don't think, unless there's something to the story I didn't see. It appears he was just talking in Hyde Park and they arrested him. That's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. And again, another example of the police being, corrupt garbage. So maybe stop deep-throating that boot, Dave. Because you'll notice, as soon as you become inconvenient, they'll fuck you up too.
This is extremely serious, which should go without saying, of course. The man gave a speech. Political dissidents are just getting locked up now for questioning and outright challenging the need for the government's COVID policies. Absolute police state levels of tyranny.
So, blackbagging people in Portland, absolutely super duper awesome because they're my political opponents. Arresting and then releasing someone after a couple of hours, which, by the way, is still fucking bad and shouldn't have happened, but is clearly far less horrific than like the fascist crackdown in Portland. That's like a complete totalitarian police state. Well, no, by comparison, it's actually pretty fucking mild. Yeah.
But these are the desperate acts of a regime that is losing public trust and that is now in double down mode. I'm nevertheless encouraged that the dam is breaking very gradually and that the public are beginning to see that there's something not quite right here. Heavy-handed policing and imprisonment of peaceful dissidents is not the behaviour of a state that wishes to keep its people safe. There's good news.
But you don't wish to keep people safe either, because you're literally just like, oh no, it doesn't exist. Why should I have to wear a mask? I'm just going to go and spit in Grandma's mouth. Fuck 'em.
From Spain.
And not in a sexy way, in like a COVID way. That's it.
This article is from the Daily Mail. Madrid refuses new lockdown as city leader argues people get run over every day, but that doesn't mean we ban cars. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. She was using the same dumb argument that didn't work when you put it out there. Yeah. Brilliant. It turns out that all COVID people are kind of a weird shit hive mind. A hive mind of manure, if you will.
And Spain's coronavirus hospitalizations hit 350 a day.
And by the way, the fact that the Madrid council were planning to do that, apparently now the Spanish national government have just gone, well, okay, if you won't, you force us to have to. And so they're going to have the lockdowns, but nationally enforced in Madrid, rather than this weird hodgepodge which wouldn't have worked. Because the Madrid Conservative local council or whatever are seemingly crazy bastards.
Madrid leader Isabel Díaz Ayuso, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, said the solution is not a total confinement. Protesters have hit the streets as 8 more districts go into partial lockdown. The leader of Madrid has rejected calls for a new lockdown in the Spanish capital, despite the city seeing thousands of new coronavirus cases per day.
Cases? Yeah, cases leads to deaths, Dave. We know this. We absolutely know this. So yeah, we know there's like roughly a 2-week thing where when you see the spike in cases, you then 2 weeks later see the spike in deaths. There's a slight delay to it because, you know, people don't die instantly. It's not a gunshot. It's a fucking infectious disease which fucks you up inside.
Hey. Isabel Díaz Ayuso said the solution is not a total confinement and demanded more people help from the Spanish government as new restrictions were imposed on parks, shops and restaurants in another 8 districts today. She previously argued that people get run over every day, but that doesn't mean we ban cars, and is opposing...
Okay, we've got Javi, who rather conveniently, given the fact that we're talking about Madrid, is a Spaniard who lives in Madrid. And Javi has said, city leader, she's a hack. She's Spanish Trump. I don't know what Ayuso Domicion means, but okay. Here's the protest against her. Okay. Okay, so this is... Hang on, I'll get this up on the screen for everyone. Javi linked me to this, who, like I say, is one of the fine denizens of the Spanish capital. So let's take a look at this. If you confine the South, we'll stop Madrid. Oh, Javi's got an English language channel. A leftist loudmouth. Okay, cool. Which I am subscribed to. Okay. Did you change it from Canedo de Izquierdas? Which I know is just the translation in Spanish, but... Oh, apparently it didn't change the title. It apparently just does that now. So it'll appear in different languages or whatever. Yeah. Okay, cool. But yeah, this is Javi's own footage from the Madrid protest. What dimisión, Javi?
Sanidad pública, sanidad pública.
It means resign. Oh, okay. That's a fair crowd, man. Look at that. Okay, so that gives you an idea of the kind of bullshit that Dave is supporting here. Thank you to Javi for that. I'll give you a cheeky little like. Yes, so it's always good to have that. I need to get more foreigners around so that when one of these cranks comes up and is like, the leader of Madrid, who's totally cool and awesome, yo, and then I can be like, I got a person from the city. They talk, yeah, you're talking shit, man. They've just confirmed you're talking bollocks. Anyway, so but yeah, apparently the national government has now stepped in and like told, well, basically enforced upon Madrid the thing that they should have been doing anyway. Like literally the government's there to try and it's supposed to try and protect its fucking people. Jesus, not just look after the red line of the the profit margin of billionaires or whatever.
Tougher restrictions despite calls for new measures from Spain's health minister. Protesters hit the streets outside Madrid's regional parliament on Sunday, with hundreds of people demanding an end to the restrictions and complaining of discrimination against poorer areas of the city. Normality is starting to return in Florida. This article is from theconservativetreehouse.com. Florida governor reopens state, removes restrictions on restaurants, nullifies all local masks.
Yeah, as the person in the chat quite rightly points out, yeah, we ban cars from pedestrian sidewalks, you div. Correct. Yeah, the analogy does actually work, but in the opposite way to the way they intend. We allow people to exist during COVID, naturally. We allow people to drive. But in both cases, we imply restrictions upon those things because of the nature of them and the danger of them in order to mitigate the risks to other people. So yeah, you're not allowed to just drive on the pavements, or the sidewalks, as they refer to in America. You have to learn how to drive. There are brakes, automatic brake systems and stuff, airbags. There are pedestrian barriers in high-risk areas. There are speed bumps to slow people down. There are speed limits, things like that. So a reasonable restriction would be wearing a mask or social distancing. You know, it's pretty straightforward stuff.
Ordinances, blocks fines and penalties. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has moved the entire state into phase 3 of the COVID-19 recovery plan. All restrictions against...
So he's just praying in aid cranks, right-wing cranks from around the world, whether it be the mayor of Madrid or the leader of Madrid, whatever, the fucking governor of Florida, who's like a Trump nutcase. Who else next? I mean, we already heard him talking about David Icke earlier, so I mean, where else to go? Should we hear what fucking the ghost of Adolf Hitler had to say from beyond the grave? Who knows?
Restaurants and businesses are removed by executive order, and all mask ordinances are nullified by the same order. No COVID ordinance may forbid or impede any business from operating. No COVID ordinance may forbid restaurants to operate below 50% capacity. Any local ordinances against these operational thresholds are nullified. No local mask ordinances shall carry any weight of enforcement. No COVID fines or penalties may be applied toward any individual or business operating.
Yeah, Javi, just for those in the YouTube chat who don't know, says her party has been defunding public healthcare for decades, so very conservative. She paid a ton of money to a big pizza company to feed poor children in schools during the pandemic. She fired thousands of healthcare workers. She hired priests and fired doctors. Fucking hell. Wow. And now we're about to be confined again because of her mismanagement. So yeah, Dave, your fucking ridiculous conspiracy bullshit and the people who you think back you up actually make life more difficult in the long run. So thank you to Javi for that information.
In the state of Florida. Meantime, in Ireland, there's this article from The Independent. COVID needs a 3 to 7 year plan. Infectious disease specialist. And this is Professor Sam McConkey saying this.
Sam McConkey? I mean, he is very white, but there's no need to have a go.
This is a medium and long-term problem.
Oh, McConkey. Oh, silly me.
And it does require community engagement and buy-in and support from all the people in Ireland for it to work over 3, 5, 7 years. This is not a short-term little problem that will just go away in 3 months. So to that sense, if you have a 3-year problem or a 7-year problem that, is the biggest in 100 years, we really need a strategic approach to that has a long vision, not some sort of reactive, this happened yesterday, therefore we'll do that tomorrow approach.
What did he say there that was like remotely unusual? I can't wait to hear Dave's nonsense. Well, I've already heard it. Why do I react like I don't watch these videos beforehand?
Well, I guess we won't talk about Sweden, who really wore the whole corona thing best, but
No, they didn't. Again, Dave, I showed you the information. 41st overall in total cases, 91st overall in terms of total population. They handled it ridiculously badly. It's just because they're not like a massive country in terms of global profile in the Anglosphere. You haven't heard so much about it in the press, but they've handled it phenomenally badly. Phenomenally badly.
I can tell you one thing. I'm a professional bullshit detection specialist, and good luck with selling this particular brand of bollocks to the general public. So,
yeah, he's a bullshit detection expert, which is why he literally cited David Icke. David Icke. Lizards in a human suit, man. I'm not saying he's a lizard in a human suit. I'm saying his idea is that the people who run the world are lizards, giant space alien lizards in human suits. But Dave pre-denied his bullshit, his anti-COVID bullshit. So yeah, he's your bullshit detector has completely fucking broken, Dave. Much like your brain.
So to get back to the beginning, it's very hard to see in your daily life demonstrable proof of an awakening on the ground in Ireland. Mask wearing is high, and the general public seem to be stuck in the mainstream media echo chamber. But I'm still of the belief that things will change in Ireland due to external events rather than a genuine grassroots awakening here. Of course, we must continue to keep pushing out the content and trying to communicate our message to as many people as possible, so that when the people do awaken, they will find a credible dissident movement waiting for them. But I think
I really wish Milo Yiannopoulos had not inspired these fuckers to continue to use the word dissident as if they know what that means. Just being full of shit doesn't mean you're a dissident, Dave. You absolutely support the power structures in place right now. It's just the power structures you think are in place aren't. It's not the NWO, it's just white men doing capitalism for the most part. There are also other people doing it, but it's mostly white people. Not just the Jews. It's mostly, just white folks doing it. Anyway, so yeah, you're not a dissident, you're just a cunt.
Real change that will have a global impact against the COVID scam is going to come from places like Germany, Sweden, France, and the growing skepticism of government policy in the UK.
Well, there's a perfectly good reason to have scepticism of the UK government's response, because it's been appalling. But actually, it's interesting that you mentioned Germany, because Germany has a far, far larger population than Sweden, doesn't it? Should we check? I don't know. I didn't even check this last night, but he mentioned Germany, so let's have a look. I know Germany's handled the situation rather well, so I'm going to use the same data sets as I did for the first. Where are Germany? And we're going to have to count again. There we go, right. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22. So Germany's 22 overall in terms of number of cases. Where is it in terms of overall numbers of population? I don't know. Probably actually about 22nd, I imagine. Where are we? Germany. It was 20 something, wasn't it? Where is it in terms of population? 19th. So basically level, yeah. Yeah. Slightly higher, but I mean marginal. So it's actually handled it pretty fucking well. Whereas the UK, 21st overall in terms of number of people, but what's that? Peru were 12, weren't they? So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. No, Chile's 12, isn't it? So 14th overall in terms of numbers. The USA, number 1 overall in terms of cases, and 3rd in terms of number of people. Is it really 3rd? Good lord. Look at the gap between the first 2 and then number 3. Jesus. Anyway. So yeah, Germany's handled it pretty levelly. That's, you know, they're about where you would expect them to be. The UK's awful. USA's awful. Sweden's awful. So the countries you've prayed in aid are dreadful, and Sweden and Germany's actually handled it pretty fucking well, considering a lot of people there. Anyway,
there's still too much trust of politicians and so-called experts here in Ireland. In the UK,
well, I mean, he's right, but not in anywhere near the way he thinks. People are too trusting of those folk, and they're lying cunts, most of them, in almost everything they say. But that's not really what Dave means. Dave means they've accepted the scientific reality that COVID's a thing, and that's bad. Yeah.
UK, there's a growing number of brave politicians finding their voice and challenging the government. They know the public have had enough and are seeing through the scam. They can sense that the tide is turning and that the draconian lockdowns and infringements of individual civil liberties and rights are no longer sustainable. Agitated the crowd to try to contrive those. People are expected to trust these predictions. And on that day, British people are losing their patience. I think they now feel that the...
Sorry, yeah. Sorry, someone said look at the deaths per million for Sweden. Okay. Deaths per million. That would be on this one, wouldn't it? Sorry. Copy. 1 second, everybody. I don't mind taking, if someone sees a statistical thingy-majig, that'd be pretty good. Then I'm more than happy to have a look. Sweden, deaths per million. What's this? Total deaths is 5 million. It's 5 million, nearly 6,000, I should say. How's that? How many is that per million? I don't know. What was the overall angle? We'll definitely do the mathematics of it. Sorry. Right. Apologies, everybody. I'm doing this on the fly now. If someone spotted a statistical nonsense. The overall number of people in Sweden is 10 million. So we have to do calculator. Ten 0 0 0 0 0 0 divided. Hang on, where are I? Divided by what was it? 6,000 equals 1,666.6666667. Okay, is that a lot? I don't know. We'll do the UK. Okay. So was 1,666, and the UK. Where's the UK again? I've lost it. 42,000 divided by something or other. 42,000 divided by so 67 million. Hang on, I'm doing this off screen, so you're just gonna have to stick with me here. No, this is on screen, yeah, sorry. Okay, so 67 million divided by 42,000 equals 1595, which is which is slightly less. So Sweden's got a worse deaths per million ratio than Britain. Good stuff. Should we do Germany? Let's do Germany. As it was mentioned. Where was Germany? It was 19, wasn't it? So 83 mil. Oh, clear. 83 divided by, what was the overall number? 9,500. This is going to be a lot lower, isn't it? 9,500. No, yeah. 8,000. What? Hang on. That doesn't make sense. Oh yeah, so hang on, yeah, I'm with you. Right, so basically the overall number, yeah, it's a lot lower in Germany, is the point, isn't it? Yeah. Oh yeah, because that's one death, yeah, so it's one death in every 8,300 or whatever, yeah. Okay, so yeah, a lot lower. A lot lower in Germany than in the UK. Germany's 114 million. Hang on a minute. Sweden is a shithole country. No, it's not. It's just got this wrong. You're dividing the thing by the wrong thing. Per million means divided by numbers of millions. Oh, sorry. I was doing the wrong way. Apologies. Yeah. I knew I'd fucked that up somehow. Anyway. Right. So you go. Oh, I've lost the. Oh, I've got rid of the fucking numbers now. What was it? 9,000 divided by 83 million. Although someone said 117 million. Right, there we go. Okay. So not many. And then Sweden was 10 million, wasn't it? No, it's the other way. Fuck's sake. Apologies, everybody. This is an awful mess. COVID. We want the COVID numbers, don't we? I've forgotten what Sweden was. Sweden. 6,000. There we go. Okay. And again, these are rough. I'm not putting in the full fucking numbers. Bollocks to that. Which is slightly higher, yeah, okay. Anyway, but the basic point stands, Sweden fucked it up way worse, okay? Kev does maths very badly. And by the way, Americans, it's maths. Mathematics is plural. Anyway, so Sweden, yeah. Suck it, UK. Yeah, we did really badly. Here in CZ, but it's going up. Oh, in the Czech Republic, okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Oh, Christie's gone, by the way. Doesn't matter. Anyway. Yeah.
British people are much more receptive to hearing something different and holding Matt Hancock and Boris Johnson to account. Many prominent...
You don't hold Matt by his Hancock.
And professors have stepped forward to explain that the virus doesn't warrant the kind of restrictions the government has implemented and that the lockdowns will do more harm than good in terms of public health. Moreover, the virus certainly doesn't justify the complete destruction of the economy. Anyway, the following is a clip of British Conservative MP Desmond Swayne.
The purpose...
Who is a lunatic, by the way, but it doesn't... This is one of his less lunatic moments, bizarrely.
...of politicians is to impose a measure of proportion, a sense of proportion.
Now again, bear in mind though, even though Desmond Swayne is sort of correct in the sense that there should be proportionality, of course, and the Tories are facing a significant backlash from their own MPs because of the handling of this, and they're wanting to implement harsh restrictions again because they don't trust that they're not going to fuck it up. Anyway, so even though Desmond Swayne is basically correct in that broad point, although some of the points he makes are a bit silly, Dave doesn't believe this problem exists, so proportionality would mean doing nothing. So he's just being dishonest by looking towards Desmond Swayne's comments here as if they back him up, because they don't.
On science and not to be enthralled to it. Now, I will make myself very unpopular, but I believe that the appearance of the Chiefs last week should have been a sacking offence. When they presented that graph, with the caveat that it wasn't a prediction, but nevertheless, it was clear that they presented it as a plausible scenario, with its 50,000 cases per day by mid-October based on the doubling of infections by the week. Not once, not on one day since March, have there been infections on that day that were double that of the day of the week preceding. Not one.
Now, I don't know if that's true, but certainly the fear-mongering from the government scientists have embarrassed themselves. They've allowed themselves to be used as political pawns throughout this. And again, not all British scientists in this area. I'm saying the ones specifically who work for the British government. And that's why no one trusts them. Because they fucking lie. Constantly.
Once.
Exactly. We've gotten into this bizarre scenario where public policy is being determined based on the future predictions being generated from someone with a graph or a data model.
A graph or a data model. Really? Oh no, what we should do is listen to David Icke's prognostications. That'll get us through. Maybe go to Scam 19 for their take on the events and do public policy via their route. You fucking lunatic.
It's just absurd, and people are expected to trust these predictions as if they're gospel.
Where did this doubling come from? What was their purpose in presenting such a graph? It was the purpose of the fat boy in Pickwick Papers. I wants to make your flesh creep. It was Project Fear. It was an attempt to terrify the British people as if...
No, it's true, but he's one of the ones that was pushing the it's just Project Fear during Brexit as well, so he doesn't really have a leg to stand on.
They haven't been
the Project
terrified.
Fear thing has basically come true in terms of Brexit, so...
Enough. Now, I've been banging on about this since March, and every criticism I've made, I've been told that the government was relying on the best possible science. So I am delighted by the letter 1 week ago today, the nuanced criticism of Professors Hennigan, Gupta and Sikora. And I believe that it is now the government that has to answer that criticism. I'm glad that the consensus in the scientific community is broken and the critics are speaking out.
There was never a consensus in the scientific community on this, in the sense that a lot of scientists have been speaking out for a while about the government's nonsense. It's just you motherfuckers were like, oh, we only listen to these 2 scientists who work for the government. It's your toadying lackey attitude towards Boris Johnson that's gotten you and the country into this problem.
Don't underestimate for one moment the horrible nature of this disease and its post-viral syndrome.
See? That's the point, right? Why, dear David, are you playing Desmond Swain saying, yeah, this virus is fucked up, this is horrible, I'm not denying that, when you do deny that? This is fucking dishonesty from you. This is propaganda from you.
But in terms of the United Kingdom's killers, it is 24th in the league, accounting for only 1.4.
I have no idea if that's true, by the way.
And as a consequence, I believe that the government's policy has been disproportionate. By decree, it has interfered in our private lives.
Wasn't this the bloke in
and
the
our
goodies?
family lives, telling who we will meet, when we may meet them, and what we must wear
Lovely.
when we meet them. We have the cruelty of elderly people in care homes, disoriented, being unable to see the faces of their loved ones and to receive a hug. We have the tsunami of deaths that we may...
It's interesting that they would give a fuck about people in care homes now, considering they didn't raise a warning when Boris Johnson was throwing people we knew had COVID into care homes. Well, that wasn't a problem, though. To them, it was a fucking huge problem to me. It's disgusting abuse of both old people and those particular old people, the old people who live in homes, and the people who work in care homes. Who apparently we're supposed to be like, we just clap for them and then just expose them to the disease, because fuck it. I mean, Boris Johnson should be in prison. There's no fucking doubt about it in my mind. He's guilty of murdering British people in the thousands, tens of thousands even.
may experience shortly as a consequence of undiagnosed cancers and heart disease and the discontinuation of clinical trials. I give way to my right honourable friend. I conclude by saying...
Yeah, there isn't that cut, just in case anyone thinks he was being dishonest there. He says, I give way to my honourable friend, and then it allows... Because you've got a set... well, often a set amount of time, but usually not. Usually you can speak for however much you want to speak in a debate in Parliament. And if you want to, if someone has a point that they wish to interject into your remarks, you can say, I give way. You can choose not to as well, but you say, I give way to my friend, you sit down, they speak, they sit down, and you resume. You stand up and resume where you were, either by responding to what they said or just saying whatever, just ignoring it if you want to. Anyway, so Dave wasn't cutting there to be dishonest. There's a genuine, reason for that.
That the policy...
I don't want to be fair to him, but unlike him, I have a semblance of intellectual honesty, so I will be.
The policy of the government has been disproportionate in response to this threat. There may, Madam Deputy Speaker, be a virus one day that threatens our very way of life. But this isn't it, even if we're behaving as if it were.
And this clip is of Conservative Party politician Lucy Allen.
There is
Notice he's just going with Tories here.
no need to impose indiscriminate, sometimes arbitrary or capricious restrictive measures on everyone. This is a new virus, and the science is young. Unlike the scientists, government has to consider wider issues, not just the science. Government has to consider the impact of lockdown on the economy, of course, and the impact on our health, but also the social consequences, the moral consequences. It has to grapple with the big picture issues, such as the value of freedom and democracy, and it also has to decide whether a COVID death matters more than any other preventable death, and I say not.
Also, I just want to insert into the video here at this point, and this is something that Dr. David Samadi has pointed out on Twitter, the new COVID-19 survival rates per CDC, that's the Centre for Disease Control.
Right, a few things, Dave. You've already said that the Centre for Disease Control, this was on his gab, the Centre for Disease Control can't be trusted, so why you're now praying in aid to their statistics, I don't know. Secondly, even if we ignore that, I don't know that these numbers are actually true, because there's no source for this. Thirdly, Dave, you remember earlier when you were going, cases? People don't always survive, do they, Dave? So if you have an increase in the number of cases, you have an increase in the number of deaths. Yeah, that's just the way it goes. Also, you also said that the number of cases was only rising because they were testing. But how would we know these statistics if they weren't testing? Like, you're just so full of shit. The idea that you give two fucks about the actual science involved here is absurd. You can't, on one hand, say, let's listen to David Icke, and then say, oh, but the statistics show it's fine. Because maybe those statistics were put together by the lizard people in human suits. Who knows? Maybe I'll go to scam19.com to find the answers.
In the United States, if you do the numbers, this is what you get. Between the ages of 0 and 19, it's 99.997%. That's the recovery rate, okay? Between the ages of 20 to 49, it's 99.98%.
Now these are all. Now this is fake news. This is all from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, George Soros, Gavi, World Health Organization, Jew numbers. Jew numbers. Yeah, you get the idea. I'm saying, he doesn't care about the actual numbers unless they randomly suit his argument, which they don't really here. It still means lots of people are dying. But whatever.
50 to 69, 99.
But he doesn't trust the numbers. They're all fake unless he, they're all fake Jew numbers, if you will, unless they suit his case, in which case he'll go with it.
5%, and 70 and over is 94.6%. But back to my own country, it doesn't matter how entrenched within the lie that most Irish people appear to be. The truth will eventually be undeniable, and it's gathering momentum everywhere.
Oh yeah, and as someone points out, there's comorbidity as well. Just because someone doesn't necessarily die strictly just of COVID, doesn't mean that COVID wasn't a contributing factor. it puts a health strain on people who are already sick. So maybe we should try to mitigate that by wearing a mask or something. Maybe. Or maybe we should just go around licking old people's faces. Yeah, individual liberties, you know.
Tsunami about to hit the shoreline, and when it breaks, even the most die-hard believers in the mainstream media propaganda will be swept up in its wake.
He's talking about me.
I believe the malevolent forces behind this agenda have pushed way too far, too fast.
I think he should have put an echo noise around malevolent forces, just to be honest about it, I think.
And it's starting to sort of slip away from them ever so gradually as they are forced to become more desperate and aggressive. I believe they were expecting dissent, but not so much.
RTE is the virus. I should explain. RTE is an Irish television broadcaster. I think he does radio as well. It's a broadcaster, whatever. RTE is the virus. Oh, fucking hell.
Much of it so early in this stage of their plans. I certainly don't think they were expecting their data models, PCR testing and propaganda to be exposed quite so early and so thoroughly by hundreds of researchers, doctors and professors worldwide. Look.
Oh yeah, there are so many professors going on here, fucking hell.
They'll still get our governments to make this winter a dark and difficult one for sure. And this battle is far from over. It's only just getting started. And it requires our hard work and commitment like never before. But I am seeing a very steady rising of consciousness among the general public around the world. And that is currently at a slow trickle, but it will eventually become a torrent just before the dam breaks.
See, just before the dam breaks, that's the title of the video. God, he's smart, isn't he? He's such a big-brained individual. God, he's cancer. Anyway, so yeah, that's Dave. That's Dave Cullen, Computing Forever. Somehow still able to be on YouTube, even though he's pumping out obviously dangerous propaganda and nonsense. So, yeah, good times. Good times. How are we doing in the chat? COVID damages survivors. It does, yeah, I mentioned that earlier. Yeah, the health. I saw one study that said that the health impacts on younger people who have it, get hospitalised and survive, is the equivalent to of having had a heart attack. Is the amount of strain and damage done to the heart by having had COVID. So, yeah, even if they survive, it's still really, really damaging. So maybe don't go around doing it. YouTube won't let me do an echo marks joke. So they're silencing dissidents who just want to be anti-Semitic. Jesus. Ugh. Well, actually, no, they're not, because we just saw him being phenomenally anti-Semitic and getting away with it. So, you know. And we are entering flu season. That is correct. Yes. Yes. Oh, hello, Mixed Vivian Wolf. How are we? They're in the chat, doing their thing. Anyway, yeah, basically I'm done at this point. Unless anyone has any questions. I don't know. I don't know what I've got going on tomorrow, actually. I need to have a little look around and see what's a haps. Does anyone have any questions? What's this? Is the hate of BIPOC, queer and Jewish people so extreme that these people will do a complete 180 into the God pill and conspiracy Twitter in order to keep the hate alive? Yeah. Well, Dave Cullen already has taken the God pill. Although when he was talking about Richard Dawkins, sort of hinting at him still being an atheist, which isn't true. Dave's like a religious fundamentalist at this point. Why is the British Parliament so British? If you have to ask that question, you're a foreigner. And therefore, it's no point trying to explain to your tiny foreign pea brain the beauty and brilliance of Britain. Or something. I think that was a party political broadcast on behalf of the Conservative Party. No, it's just, I mean, it's, yeah, the British Parliament is, it's so fascinating for me to watch the reaction of foreigners watching the British Parliament. Because they're always like, what? This is like a Dickensian novel piece or something. What is this, a performance art thing they're doing of Victoriana? And the answer is basically yes. Did you check out Beau the Fifth Column's YouTube yet, Kev? What do you mean, did I check it out? I've been subscribed to him for ages. He's awesome. Yeah, go and subscribe to Beau the Fifth Column. He's from the South, in terms of the United States, but he's one of the good ones. Will you make a video on Falun Gong? Probably not. Why would I do that? Unless there's something specific you want me to talk about. I don't know. Translating your idioms is the hardest part. Mine specifically, or in Parliament? Because Parliament is really weird, yeah. Anyway. Positive leftist news. What's this? Oh, it's Mexie's thing. Oh, she's got a new positive leftist news. Awesome. I'll watch that after I'm done. Thank you to who gave me that link. Howlcat. Good stuff. Good stuff. Prepare to be weirded out. What's this? Kissing the Oh no! What is this? Kissing the coronavirus. Hang on, I'll put this on the screen for everyone. 1 second. People send me weird stuff, and I'm so fucking here for it. Look at this. Kissing the Coronavirus by MJ Edwards. She was supposed to cure the coronavirus. Instead, she fell in love with it. Oh, I have to read this book. Dr. Alexa Ashingtonford, oh god, is part of a crack team of scientists tasked with finding the cure to the devastating coronavirus. Little did she know she would end up falling in love with it in this steamy viral erotica. Kissing Coronavirus is a steamy tale about forbidden love and dark desires come to life. Oh god, I hope that's real. I hope that's real. I will definitely read that shit. I love reading nonsense. I don't know if you can tell. Anyway, yeah, so that's a thing. That's a thing that unfortunately exists. Funny. Yeah, they'll make steamy fucking middle-aged housewife porn for on any topic, won't they? Anyway, yeah, read it live. I don't know that I have the rights. I can do War Corpse's books because I've got, well, at least in theory, the right. I don't think he would actually sue me because we did a fucking live stream debate thing for me to get the rights to that, so I can use all of his written material. Anyway, so yeah, but maybe I'll do a reading of snippets of it for everyone. But that means I'll have to buy it. Oh god. Like, genuinely, I want to get hold. If anyone knows, can you get hold of a copy of Caleb Moppin's new book? You know, the tanky twat. Again, another one of the people besmirching the genius of the ginger beard, unfortunately. Yeah, he's written a thing. Ironically, someone's talking about Malthusianism. Yeah, Caleb Moppin, the Burger King himself. Caleb Mop, it's spelled CALEB space MAUPIN. Anyway, have a good read of what's this? My handsome sentient face mask protects me despite the ridiculous conspiracy theories that he won't. Also, he pounds my butt. It appears to be a real thing. Okay, we're not ending this show now. This appears to be a real thing. Amazeballs. There we go. My handsome sentient face mask protects me despite the ridiculous conspiracy theories that he won't. Also, he pounds my butt. Kindle edition. By Chuck Tingle. Fuck's sake. I think humanity was a mistake. Anyway, should we read that gives you a little bit. When Tyler meets his friend Mark at the local cafe during a global pandemic, he's horrified to witness his friend arrive without a face mask. Tyler is even more horrified to learn that Mark is an anti-mask conspiracy theorist who believes protective masks are used by Bill Gates to track your blood, and that wearing them will poison you with CO2. When Mark starts making a scene, it's the last straw, and Tyler quickly drops him as a friend, but not before Mark offers an anonymous warning, that mask won't protect you. This is put to the test when Tyler is walking home from the cafe and confronted by the Billings Butcher, a notorious maniac slasher. As expected, Tyler's sentient face mask offers all the protection he could need. Now Tyler is looking to repay the favour with hardcore pounding that proves love is real when you wear a mask. This erotic tale is 4,100 words of sizzling human sentient gay face mask action, including anal, blowjobs, rough sex, cream pies, and living health equipment love. Oh, sweet merciful Jesus. It would appears this person does these trolly ones. What's this? Lindsey Ram's ass is haunted by the physical manifestation of his hypocritical words not filling a vacant Supreme Court seat during an election year, which he specifically asked to haunt him. My macaroni and cheese is a lesbian, also she is my lawyer. Oh God. Spooky sentient lesbian candy corn butt buffer. Oh God. Oh no. The butt pounder of the opera. What's this? Mercury. Mercury is in retrograde and she eats my ass. Chuck Tingle, you are a strange, strange man and a legend. Thank you. Anyway, enough of this fucking nonsense. Oh, beautiful. Chuck Tingle is hilarious and amazing. You're quite correct. No, not City Builders and Vandals in Our Time. He wrote one about, it's called, we're back to Caleb Moppin now. He wrote Kamala Harris and the Future of America. It's a new one. But yeah, he's if someone can get hold of a copy of that, because I want to do a reading and breaking down of it because it sounds amazing. He's a lunatic. He's basically doing kind of softcore Trump, not simping, but like nonsense. Yeah, it's not a very long book, that the Chuck Tingle one. I think he's mainly doing it as a joke, isn't he? It's like a troll thing. He's got an awesome podcast too. I might have to have a look. Anyway, I'm rambling now. So yeah, I'm just going to fuck off. Thank you to everyone for listening and watching and all of that shit. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the Twitch. If you're on Twitch, subscribe to the YouTubes, and all of that shit. And the thingamajigs will kick you over to, I don't know, the serfs. The serfs are, whenever I finish, the serfs are the only ones that are fucking broadcasting. It's so annoying. Well, it's not annoying that they're broadcasting, but it's annoying that I don't have options to like kick people to somewhere other than them. Because it would be good to give some smaller peeps a few eyeballs. Anyway, I'm going to stop now. Thank you all for listening and watching. And though traitors, fear and snitches, gay, cum, masks, we'll keep the red flag